Howdy folks. Today I wanted to do a video talking about muzzleloader mistakes that I have made that you could avoid by watching the video. So just kind of something to help you out, plus I'll give you some tips and tricks. So I guess the first big one to avoid mistakes is these things. Read them. I didn't. Bad idea. There's things, honestly, I don't know that I ever have read this because I figured out what I needed to know by screwing up and changing things. You got manuals. This is for the one that my grandpa had, this one here. So one mistake that I've made because I didn't know any better in spite of the research I did, thought I did enough, but I didn't, is 777 is a great black powder substitute. In my area, I can get this or this. That's it. I don't have access to black powder unless I ordered online in a big enough quantity to make it worthwhile, and it's not available right now, so I don't have any. This stuff is great. It ignites pretty good. It shoots good. I've had good luck with it for the most part, but one thing I didn't know is that it is more powerful than regular black powder. If you'll look at this gun, the nipple is missing. I've been shooting this with 50 to 100 grains of 777. What I didn't know is this is hotter. Your maximum load should be 15% smaller than black powder when you're using 777. I did not know that. My maximum load for this was 100 grains. I'd been shooting 75 for the most part. One day, randomly, for whatever reason, don't know why, I loaded it with 100, shot it, went to take the nipple off the cap, cap off the nipple, and there was no nipple. I didn't get hurt, didn't do any other damage to the gun, still functions just fine, but someday I want to try to get that fixed because that was my grandpa's gun. So that's two mistakes that you can avoid. Read the manual and know more about your powder. Even though it says, even said on here, black powder equivalent, that means that you can measure it the same. It doesn't mean it's the same power. Pyrodex, same thing. It's a little more powerful. You should back that down a little with maximum loads. When you're using pellets, I've used them practicing with musket caps, which are these. So they're pretty powerful. And my System 1 wasn't recommended. I thought, well, I want to try it and find out for myself because these weren't available when this gun was made. This was made in '97. It's been discontinued since then. It's a really nice rifle. Well, when I practiced, I never had a problem with these in musket caps. First time I took it hunting, I had a big 8-pointer 35 yards from me. It misfired. Didn't ignite. If I would have had it loaded with that, I think I would have had that buck on the wall. So just be aware when you use, if you want to use these, they work great. Do them in a gun that takes 209 primers. It's just a mistake I've made that I regret. Something that you can learn from my mistakes. I'm just going to talk about random things here. Different kinds of projectiles. I got a power belt. This is just a cast lead slug. This is a saboted bullet. Different style of saboted bullet. Now these are smaller bullets where the sabot, the plastic part, goes into the rifling. This is a conical. See, it's hollowed at the bottom. This is kind of an older style that would have been used like Civil War era. These go down pretty good, and then as soon as the powder ignites, that bottom will expand a little into the rifling. This is kind of the same theory, but it's the plastic part. I've had pretty good luck with these, but my best accuracy out of my CVA Wolf has been this, and both of these. I've been kind of leaning towards these lately, but really inexpensive compared to the power belts, but a little harder to load and a little messier because you get plastic that melts into your barrel, but nothing too bad. The other thing is a patched round ball. You want to make sure you have a thick enough patch to create a gas seal, but not so thick that you get it jammed in there, or where you can't get it seated against the powder. Another common mistake is loading that without putting powder in. I did that once. The fix for that is, if you have a gun like this you did that with, take it apart, take out your breech plug, push it out. Not that big of a deal. If you have a gun like this, no breech plug back here, it's all solid, then you need a range rod, which is this. Talk about more about this in a minute. But then you can screw, this is called a worm, this is a CVA one. You get that down seated against your ball, give it a few light taps, and screw that into the ball or bullet, and then pull the bullet out. It's not the easiest thing, but I have done it. A mistake to avoid with this range rod, doing this. Sooner or later that is going to strip the threads on your jag and ruin the end of your range rod like it did with this one. I've got that glued in there. It's 45 caliber only now, and I can't attach anything to it. When you're taking screws in and out of these things, or your breech plug, use some anti-seize. Make sure you're using a good solvent. I prefer not to use water. I think it's better to use something that's not going to rust your gun if you miss a little area. And let's see, what else can we talk about? I think that's pretty much it for mistakes to avoid, tips and tricks, other than the main things: read your manual. I didn't on this gun either. And back, not going to be able to get the camera. Anyway, there's a bushing back here where the firing pin comes out. I missed that in, I don't remember if I read the manual or not. I missed that in how-to videos, I missed that in the manual. I didn't take that out for long enough. Now it's so seized up in there I can't get it out. What I do, I made this gun function just fine by, I soak it with this, let it dry, and then I soak it with this, and it functions just fine. But if you do not clean your firing pin on these more modern muzzle loaders, eventually that firing pin's going to get stuck. And if it's stuck in the forward position a little, when you close this, the gun is going to go bang. I had that happen once. So make sure you're cleaning that firing pin. Now, in my defense, I thought I knew what I was doing. I already had this muzzle loader, the one that's now useless, and I always cleaned them up really good. I cleaned this one really good, took really good care of it, I thought. Those other two don't have firing pins. This one has a bolt that goes forward, the other one has a hammer. This one has a firing pin, and that area needs to be cleaned. So that's something else to think about. And you don't want to over tighten your breech plug or it won't come off. Never use Loctite on any of your parts. If something's coming loose, you need to crank it down more or something. Do not use Loctite, because you will not get that off without a vice grip, and you're going to scar up your gun. Another thing is just knowing the difference in FG, FFG, triple FG, and the 4 FGs. I only have 2F because that's all I have available to me. And this type of gun, you're supposed to use 3F, which I can't find anywhere. The 777 seems to work great, even in 2F. Pyrodex, not so much. Every single one of them hang fire. But yeah, just make sure you clean them up real good. If you're going to shoot them for the fun of it, make sure you have time to give them a thorough cleaning within the next day or so. So I think that's it, unless I think of something else and add to it. And thanks for watching. What do you know? I thought of another mistake that you can avoid. So, this here gun, the Traditions Kentucky pistol. I don't know if I'll get that to focus. Not really. But this screw is all cammed out. It's ruined. These screws are made of pretty soft metal, which is kind of dumb on a gun, I know. But that's the way they are. I've had a hard time. I can't find a replacement screw, so I could use an easy out and get that out of there. The reason that screw is all messed up is something else I didn't know about at the time. gun screws have different heads on them than a hardware screw is going to have. And you should have gunsmithing screwdrivers. Now this is a Wheeler 72-piece gunsmithing screwdriver set. That was the one that seemed to have pretty much everything I needed. So the difference in these, get the biggest one here, is they're really flat on the bottom. They don't come to a taper like a hardware store screwdriver would. So they, there's all sorts of bits in here. You find one that'll fit that screw perfectly and not end up stripping out the head, making it cam out, whatever you want to call it. I have my System 1 that I bought used, one of the scope mounts, one of those screws, the previous owner obviously didn't know that either, which I didn't see any information on that until about the last year and a half or so. But one of the scope mount screws on that one's ruined. I can't get it out. So shooting the shotgun barrel on that gun, I got to leave the scope on. Which isn't the end of the world, but you really don't need a scope on a shotgun. Another thing that these aren't totally essential with muzzleloaders, but they can be a help, is a good punch set. This is a Wheeler punch set. You got everything from little tiny steel punches, brass punches. With the brass punches, you don't have to worry about marring up the finish on your gun and ruining your pins. It comes with a little poly hammer here that so you're not damaging your gun and stuff. These things can come in handy for things that aren't muzzleloaders, so can the screwdrivers. So a couple other mistakes that I could have avoided, like ruining that screw if I would have known to use a special screwdriver. The punch set too I used to get the wedge out of this gun. I know this isn't a muzzleloader, but it's still black powder. Let's see. One other thing I should mention, this is a cast bullet that a coworker gave me. These don't, it's a 50 caliber and they scour the barrel pretty good on the way down, but they don't create the greatest gas seal, so you want a little piece of wadding or leather to do with them. I made these little felt wads. Cut them out with a 1/2-inch punch. Got this on Amazon. It goes, I don't remember what size all of these are, but those, yeah, that's 1/2 inch. So it goes all the way up to a 1/2 inch. And then you want like a poly cutting board or something on the other side of that and hit it with a poly hammer if possible, if you're gonna make your own felt wads with those. Hey buddy. So anyway, just some other tips and tricks. And my son is 1.5-year-old son is pulling all my stuff. Anyway, that's just a couple other things I thought of after I made the first video. Let's see, is there anything else? Some stuff you might want to invest in. You're going to need a powder measure. You want something to clean out your nipple or 209 pocket. You can get kits with your bristles, metal bristles. You got something to put oil on to swab it, and a jag. Various nipple wrenches for whatever kind of gun you're going to use. This is a breech plug wrench for my System 1. Fits around there perfect, works really good. The cleaning utensil I like is a toothbrush. I haven't bought any yet, but it seems like pipe cleaners come in handy. Otherwise I use Q-tips to get into the little areas. A couple little tips and tricks. With the Q-tips, you want to be really careful though when you're cleaning out a nipple area that you don't twist it into the threads and pull out, because a lot of times you'll leave some of the cotton in there. If you twist it into the threads, you want to back that back out. And if you get something stuck in there, put the other in and then twist it against the threads. So it looks like my boy hurt himself a little bit, so I better see to that, and thanks for watching.